This is a film about Parkinson's disease, one of the world's most common neurological disorders, affecting 120,000 people in the UK alone. The composer and virtuoso jazz saxophonist Barbara Thompson was first diagnosed with Parkinson's in 1997, 1 year after being awarded an MBE for her services to music. Parkinson's disease is a progressive disorder of the central nervous system in which sufferers lose control over the movements of their limbs and fingers, becoming either a shaker, unable to stop moving, or, like Barbara, a freezer, only able to move by taking drugs.
This is a month's supply of tabs.
A particularly tough problem if you're an improvising jazz musician. Filmed at intervals across a period of 5 years, this is a record of Barbara's astonishing determination, aided by her husband, jazz rock drummer Jon Hiseman, to cope with her condition in ways that still enable her to compose and to perform.
Builder's tea or Lady Grey?
Builders, I think.
Builders.
Very nice.
You do a lot of cooking still.
All of it.
I do the baked beans on toast here.
Yeah, I mean, what I do is... There's certain things I can do before I've taken the medication, but it's not a lot. I don't put things off anymore. I do them because I never know when I will be able to do them or not. Oh, let's see. Oh.
What's that?
Oh, I've strained my a muscle here, and when I sneeze or cough or yeah, it's a living nightmare really at the moment. I keep wanting to pinch myself and say, you know, this is happening. You know, it just doesn't seem possible.
We've been on a roller coaster ride really for 10 years. At first we didn't believe it. First there was not much difference to the way we lived our lives. But gradually things got more and more difficult. And where we are now is we're at the crossroads. We're at the crossroads between everything being okay and having to seriously change the way we live our lives.
In 1979, Barbara and Jon's musical partnership was the subject of a 60-minute BBC documentary. And recently, a new book has been written about them.
In the old days, we were balancing our musical life with the children, touring, being away, coming back in and out all the time. Now, of course, it's balancing music and Parkinson. We are not reliable as people. And it's becoming increasingly difficult. We can live to our own deadlines, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to live to other people. I can organise a trip so that next August the 17th we're on a stage in Vienna. I mean, I can do that, that's easy. But will we actually be able to walk out on that stage in Vienna when the audience is ready? That's what we don't know. And that means that it becomes very difficult to take those kind of things. Oh, it's going to be a bit of a game, this is, I think.
Well, I mean, life is a game, and
yeah, nobody ever said it was going to be fair.
no.
Barbara's band Paraphernalia, with various changes of personnel along the way, has been successfully touring, mostly in Europe, since the 1970s. In 2005, with Barbara's physical condition increasingly unpredictable, they set out on a farewell tour.
I'm glad to be back, but I don't know how long it will be for.
We'll work as long as we can. We might get lucky. We've always been lucky so far, so maybe we get lucky again.
The latest album, Never Say Goodbye, I've written a lot of very happy things. It's very up in mood. Got spirit, you know, and hope, spirit, joy.
Parkinson's disease was first defined as a medical condition by James Parkinson in London in 1817. Until then, it had been known from ancient times as the shaking palsy. Parkinson's disease results from the loss of a chemical neurotransmitter in the brain called dopamine, and treatment of the disease involves the taking of various dopamine substitutes.
Hiya.
Hi.
Sorry about the delay. Would you rather visit?
No.
Have a seat. Do you want to improve quality of life? Are you happy with your quality of life? Because that's the most important guide.
Well,
It is.
I'd rather be without all this.
Yes. But that isn't going to go anywhere, is it? So
Well,
reality tells you how to improve
Stem cells.
I don't think it lays in stem cells. I think there's loads of other things coming along, but it's maybe stem cells. But the new drugs like duodopa are really changing people's lives around. You're trying to replace a chemical like dopa that we have normally to run a smooth run 24 hours a day to deal with our emotions, our downs and our ups. We're trying to mimic that with drugs.
The movements are effectively the side effects of the drugs rather than the Parkinson itself.
Because we're trying to mimic an action of a chemical, and we could go way over the top or way under. But what is too much for a patient, for Barbara, may not be too much for another patient. And if I was to give another patient Barbara's dose, it'd be far too small for them.
Yes,
and if I gave Barbara their dose, she'd be on the floor. So that's why it's fine-tuning you all, because they're all so different. There's no two patients the same. And some patients cannot be treated.
Oh, that's a tragedy.
Well, you can treat them, but they won't respond to medication.
Right.
So you're lucky in the sense that we can still treat you, and the medications are there, and there's lots.
Well, without it, I mean, I'm
You can't move.
no. I find myself sharing a journey with Bill Worrell, who is a fellow Parkinson sufferer. A few years ago, he played the keyboards in my band Paraphernalia, and a wonderful player he was.
I'm sorry, I'm just seizing up. It's just an unbelievable struggle just doing that much. It's hard to actually put into words.
Do drugs allow you to play now?
No, unfortunately, I'm very different from Barbara in that respect. With her, she gets back to pretty much normal, or does completely get back to normal, whereas me, they allow me to function, but they don't affect my left hand. Even if I think I'm going to play a certain chord, and I'll be looking at my hands, and then they literally won't move. I mean, the right hand, I say I can get to do something, but my left hand to do the same thing would be. I mean, the other thing is you can't actually control it. Well, I say it's dexterity. I mean, if I really thump the note, if I think I've got to play that note, then I can do that. But if I want to play it softly, I'm doing that, and then it's very hard judging the amount of pressure you need to actually to play.
What about your right hand? Why do you think your right hand operates differently to your left?
Well, it's a known thing. Parkinson's. It starts with one limb and then progresses normally to the other limb that's on the same side. So it's obviously in my left hand predominantly now, and it will then progress to the left leg, which I can feel it happening.
And how did it first manifest itself for you, Barbara?
It was just that we were doing a revival of some of the old stuff that Andrew Lloyd Webber had written, and he got the Variations team together, and I just had this thing to play on flute,
Is that the South Bank show?
Yeah, it's on the South Bank show. It's me playing it on the South Bank show now. And it's such an easy thing, and I thought, oh God, I haven't done enough practice, you know. And I thought, oh dear, da-da-da-da-da, that's not very clear, you know, so I practiced it hard and I played it okay. But that was the first sign I had that something wasn't right. And then after that it was low trills, you know, with the right hand. I mean, I can do it fine now because, you know, the medication makes my fingers work. This is like a nicotine patch. Just shows how, you know, technical I am. Rotigotine. Rotigotine. Roti, like roast, French roast. Got knee. Right. Rot got knee. Anyway, you wear it one every 24 hours, and that is a dopamine agonist. They think it actually stops your condition deteriorating further. I take Stalevo, which is dopamine. It's the lowest supply you can get. I take this every hour.
If you didn't take this pill now, what would happen?
I would gradually run out of dopamine, and I would end up not be able to walk, and totally helpless, really. It's
And feeling desperate.
Yeah, I'm feeling awful.
You get quite desperate with it.
Yes.
That's
yes.
the point. I mean, it's a psychological problem too.
Yeah.
And of course, you live a lot of your life fearing going down. It's a sort of Pavlovian thing. So
Well,
this
I'm
becomes
nervous
another
if I'm
real problem.
out. If I'm out,
Yeah.
I'm not nervous when I'm at home because it doesn't matter.
Barbara somehow, she heard Roland Kirk and she absolutely decided that she could play two saxophones at once as well. And the great thing about her was that she always played them in tune. She can still play two saxophones, but the crisis at the moment is that she can't really practice with any regularity because she's going down all the time. It takes a lot of energy to play the saxophone.
I haven't played it for about 20 years.
Barbara's standard was very high, and this is the problem at the moment. It's difficult for her to hold for long periods. She's moving about all the time gently, and of course she's going down all the time. So, you know, she can do something in the morning and say, I'll practice this afternoon, but of course when she gets this afternoon, she's wiped out. She can't practice.
How are you feeling now?
Terrible.
Really?
Yes. Really.
What is the whole process of feeling?
Well, what happens is I've run out of dopamine, and basically it's hard to stand. It's hard to, you know, I feel exhausted. You know, I can just about keep my balance, and you know, I'm very weak, and I just feel like a rag doll. This is one of my best places because I can get in easily and prop myself up and just go to sleep. If I get an attack and go down, the first thing is you're fighting the weight of your clothes. My arms find it difficult to, it sounds ridiculous, but a coat can be too heavy for me. And at night, if I'm sleeping, I can't stand the weight of a duvet over me, you know, when I'm down, because when your muscles aren't working, you've got no strength at all.
Not being reliable with Parkinson means, of course, you just can't know when you're going to go stiff, when you're not going to be able to move. Psychologically, you begin to fear the business of coming down. So when you come down, you begin to actually then get aberrations about, oh my God, you know, I can't go on like this, I can't. But the interesting thing is that as soon as Barbara comes up, she's, that's, you know, she's back to her old self again.
when the Parkinson Society asked me to perform at their Christmas do, I wrote an arrangement of Fanai Grove for solo alto sax, choir and organ. The Fanai Grove was originally recorded in an old abbey in France.
So how many years has it been now?
12. My right side is, my feet, I often don't know what my right foot's doing.
Don't coordinate.
No.
Stand up for me. Turn around. Your movements are good. If anything, you're just a little bit over, but you probably prefer to run over. Just going to pull you back. Just hold yourself. That's quite good. Okay. Bit of a wobbler.
The whole trick is how do you deliver the drug that works? And we're hoping that apomorphine delivered via a small electric pump and an infusion line into the stomach area will solve the problem. The people at King's have had people on this for 14 years and they're still okay. And in theory, 14 years from now, we will get some kind of a fix. We've got a little film here.
That was 2005.
This was taken 2005. Now, you can see that Barbara, it's quite a fast tune, and this dancing movement with her legs, she's actually had at least for the last 10 years. But effectively, she's reasonably stable in front of the mic. Yeah. And if you saw that on stage, it would never occur to you there's anything funny going on. Okay? Yeah, now, we did a concert recently at Ronnie Scott's. Now this was 4 weeks ago. You can see this is a slow tune. And you can look at the twisted nature of her trunk. Yeah. She's actually quite twisted over in a way she never was.
I had a terrible downer there just before.
Yes.
I had to take an extra 100.
You had taken a levodopa?
Because I had a real downer.
In the dressing room before we went on.
When Barbara was doing the injection before she played, before she was taking levodopa, she had to lay down immediately for half an hour afterwards because otherwise she felt she did feel incredibly sick every time.
I was actually sick.
And she was sick several times in a bucket on the side of the stage and then walked on and played beautifully. My life, her life.
The band were looking on.
The band just couldn't get this together at all. And the promoters used to come in, just before the gig, have a wonderful gig, and Barbara was throwing up in a bucket, and you can imagine this was insane, Anyway, we did the gigs and it all worked fine. The question really is, what are the implications for that kind of thing, wearing a pump?
We've taken into consideration that you've now had Parkinson's for about 11 years. So you're no longer in the so-called early, or some people call honeymoon stage of Parkinson's. You're in the so-called complex stage of Parkinson's. Using apomorphine is a particularly good option because it will rationalize your oral treatments. In spite of everything, you're now having to take several tablets several times a day. For a busy person, that's often quite difficult, whereas with apomorphine infusion, you just put it on in the morning, take it off in the evening, so that stays there. And you can program the pump to deliver the drug for 12, 16, 18 hours.
Interesting. And this could address the problems we're having with sleep. And when I say we, I mean we're still trying to sleep together, and it's, it's a bit of a game,
In fact, it would be over a year before Barbara's new treatment was given the official go-ahead.
I wrote a Smoky Embrace after I got Parkinson. In fact, I did most of my composing after I was diagnosed because I thought I didn't have much time, so I thought I must get on with it. So in the last 10 years, I've killed myself composing. My domain, which is my own domain, which is very important to me to have a place like this to disappear to. Whoever's in the house, I don't know if they're there or not, so I can just work away. Anyway, French horn start.
Because of the difficulty of playing, has composition taken over more of your life?
Definitely. I'm really a sort of full-time composer. Tons of stuff. This is the Crossing, which is big orchestral work, which I'm trying to write. Controller somewhere.
Perhaps turn these volume down a little.
Oh, I can turn it. The Crossing is a symphonic piece based on Rush Hour in Rome. It's one of the most complicated pieces I've ever done. It's an enormous score.
Do you think there's a relationship between music and Parkinson's disease?
Yeah, it's my escape. Because however awful I'm feeling, I can listen to something like this and then think about what I'm doing with it, you know. I mean, I can forget myself, you know. And that's, you know, why I'm happy here, because I've been in dire straits and I've come out here and I've just got on and then, you know, a few hours later you feel better. You know, I really, I mean, Jon asked me how I'm feeling and I don't like him doing that because I don't want to be reminded. You know, I just want to get on with things, live as normally as possible, be creative.
Has your experience been that people who are, let's say, obsessive or driven, or who have, you know, a cause in life or a vision, something they want to achieve, do you find they cope better with this, with Parkinson?
Those personalities are more prone to develop Parkinson's. People who are very driven, very often very obsessional, they have a higher rate than normal developing Parkinson's. As a result, you're quite right, they are more likely also to cope with it better. And paradoxically now also we know that some of the drugs might actually again unmask those obsessional features. So it's a very complex issue how the whole personality interacts with what is otherwise broadly thought to be largely a motor syndrome, where you have slowness, stiffness, difficulty with performing.
So in a way, this is genetically written. Her obsession since she was a young girl with playing and performing and driving herself forward, becoming one of the few lady saxophone successful players in the world. Sure. This has all, in a way, been written in the books to lead to something exactly like this. I mean, it's all your fault.
I love actually writing music. That is no problem. What the problem is sorting it out, so that other people can play it. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll go from.
An improvising multi-instrumentalist, Barbara has also composed orchestral, choral, and chamber works for classical musicians.
Really, I don't write my music, it writes itself, you know, basically. I'm just the medium through which it passes. I'm trying to show the saxophone off as well as it can be shown, you know, the things that it excels at. It helps a lot to have first-hand knowledge of instruments when you write for them. I know what the instruments can do. It's such a versatile instrument that you can write lots of different effects. They can sound like bells, they can growl, they can shriek.
As a saxophonist, you must be a tough audience for students to play to.
When they realise that I'm on their side and all I want to do is make them sound as good as possible, then I'm not there to tear them down.
This was the recording of the tuba concerto with the Foden's brass band, one of the top brass bands in the country, and James Goulet, who is one of the world's foremost tuba players. Yeah, James, scary.
Barbara's music is really challenging because it's about the hardest thing written for the tuba ever, because the lines are very much like saxophone lines, but a challenge should always be met.
This whole album features the tuba. It's a very unusual album, and I've written a duet. They do mouse-phonics, you know, they play chords as well, and harmonics. And because I'm not, you know, a brass player, I don't write for it as, you know, it's something different in the way that they're used to. Just the final part is where they go into rhythm, and they played it beautifully. As they go into a sort of groove, which is nice.
I think it's in its own language, which is in a place between jazz and classical. You have to play it in a classical way, almost a straight way, but at the same time you can't ignore the jazz influence that's there, and particularly when you're articulating and phrasing.
Why double trouble?
Well, they said it should be called triple trouble. And quadruple trouble, they said.
It should be called quintuple trouble, not double trouble.
I think it's an insult to his worthiness not to give him a challenge.
It's too high and too hard, and we can just barely get through without falling down.
I'm writing quite a lot of stuff these days for other people because the medication that I have to take makes it increasingly difficult for me to guarantee being on a stage at a certain time. I can't put my right foot on the stage. I feel like I'm going to fall over.
So you feel like you're falling all the time?
I feel like I'm going to fall over. I feel very precarious.
You're down at the moment?
Yeah, I'm halfway down, halfway up. I took a tablet at 6:25, and I've been on the down ever since, and I'm having to work out when I should take one before we go on stage, but I'm not sure whether we're going on stage. I've taken a strong one now, but stronger, but I will take a weak one before I go on stage, otherwise I will be having too much movement and I won't be able to hold the saxophone. Still, Who am I to complain? There's certain things that when you've done it all your life, it's like playing tennis. I can still play the shots that I always played, you know, and the same with table tennis, because you know it's like an automatic reaction, and that's the same with playing an instrument. It's not logical that you should be able to do them really, but I think you know sport and music is sort of exceptional. The effect it has on you, I think. That's why PD sufferers should do as much as possible of those, because, you know, frankly, you know, though I'm knackered, I enjoy this. When I'm swimming, I can feel what is wrong with me. I can feel the weakness where there never used to be weakness. I find it's a good monitor, and it's great to feel free as well. Because the thing about Parkinson is that you feel very heavy a lot of the time.
There is certainly a very strong emotional or motivational element to the whole issue of the motor expression of Parkinson's. And this area that's fascinating, but we're really learning at the moment.
So, music itself, do you think, has a beneficial effect upon Parkinson's sufferers?
Well, it certainly would reduce many of the other stress-related or rather stressors of the condition.
Okay, we ready, everybody? Alles klar? Ja. Ja.
Jawohl, mein Herr.
1, 2, 3.
I got blues in the morning, blue pills, red and whites. Got blues in the morning, blue pills, red and whites. They get me through my days and they get me through my nights. But I shake.
Leading the choir is the dynamic jazz singer Carol Grimes. And the sardonic blues they're singing is about Parkinson's and written by choir member George Foster.
Good morning, pills. Pills, what do you do? Good morning, pills. Pills, what do you do? You help my shakes, but you have side effects too.
You make me
Shake right when I walk.
When you engage your mind in something that you are very at home in doing, music for instance, might actually have a beneficial effect on some of the Parkinson's symptoms. Anything that you have a high intensity of mental input to often has an interesting beneficial effect on many of the motor problems of Parkinson's. So for instance, many people with tremor, it may not come out normally, but when you ask the person to mentally exercise or do a dual tasking, the tremor would come out. There are these mysteries about Parkinson's, you know, just the whole concept of how, you know, your hobbies and how your passion for doing things, how that affects the motor expression is a really fascinating one that we do not know really much about.
Oh well, Doper, I've saved you till last. Oh well, Doper, I've saved you till last. To give me a rhyme for this kind easy ass. 'Cause I got a dysregulated brain, driving me insane. Dysregulated brain, driving me insane. I'll tell you what I mean. I got those dopamine dysregulation syndrome blues.
I mean, it beggars belief that you can have an evening of the most amazing entertainment, courtesy of this wretched disease, but at the same time buoyed up by the courage and the amazing fortitude and sort of desire to conquer by the people who have it.
In 2005, at the Oxford Playhouse, Barbara took part in a Parkinson's benefit event hosted by Jon Snow and Libby Purvis.
Well, Barbara. Now, there was a terrible rumour going around several years ago in the jazz world that you had in fact retired from touring because you were not well enough to play. Well, put this about.
Well, I think it was partly my fault because I decided to do a farewell tour, and that's always painful.
Does the music actually physically affect you?
I think it does. I think anything where you forget what you are and who you are, and you just go with the rhythm, it's going to help you.
And how about playing for the Parkinson's awareness events?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I mean, that's a good cause, and I'm hoping to do some more of that. When I've got, as you can see, I'm in a mess here. When I've got myself sorted out, in the autumn, I want to get on and write this piece for Tom Isaacs.
That's life, Lord, I can't deny it. We Parkies need help, and you can supply it. With 11 years of shaking I've endured. Now I feel it's time to be cured.
Diagnosed in his 20s, Tom Isaacs wrote a book about his marathon walk around Britain to raise public awareness of Parkinson's. And Barbara has now joined his campaign for a cure.
We're both trying to get on and do things and not let it, not give up, really. We're both fighting is the word. We're fighters in arms together.
We're not ones for big rallies, it's all or nothing in there. What are the chances of an international jazz musician, saxophonist, and a chart surveyor from Watford getting together? I mean, isn't it quite a strange way Parkinson's is bringing people like us together, which is great. When one Parkies person goes dyskinetic, the other person does usually as well.
Oh no, you said that it was Billy Joel.
It is a Billy Joel song. It's a song that I quite liked when I was younger, because it was all about how women are.
All right. And now it's how Parkinson's.
How Parkinson's is, yeah. It's kind of the banes of my life.
Are you ready down there then?
To the fridge in the morning I reach for my juice.
There's a sign on the top says shake well before use. But I don't need instructions, I have expertise. Completely superfluous message with Parkinson's disease. My shaving blade's waving around like a maraca. It's a bit like the Texas Chainsaw Bathroom Massacre. My electric toothbrush, it needs no batteries. I don't need power, 'cause I've got the Parkinson's disease. One thing with this Parkinson's, of which I am sure, that right now the science is out there to lead us to cure.
A lot of your lyrics finish with this up vision, Tom, about hope for an actual cure. When Barbara was first diagnosed, the first thing was, 2 or 3, 4 years, 5 years, there'll be a fix. And of course it was a fantasy.
I was told it was going to be 5 years, and 15 years on, here we are. And yet, there is enormous hope out there. The problem lies, I think the cure is a process. I don't see it as a fixed single event. That one day we're all going to have Parkinson's, next day it'll have gone magically. It's not going to happen like that. It's going to be a step-by-step process. I think a lot of the onus is on us, the patients, to make more of a play, to get more involved in the scientific process, to
encourage,
to encourage and to really hit home what this condition's all about. And I think if we do that, then everything will be accelerated. Right. I've had Parkinson's for 14 years, and since then I've turned my attention to telling people what Parkinson's is all about, to make people understand it. Because how can anyone even hope to treat Parkinson's without having at least some knowledge of what it's like to have it? I don't have to use my fingers so much, I don't have to write, I don't have to play saxophone, so all I need to do is to be able to speak to people, and communication is all important to me. And as you all know, there is no known cure for Parkinson's, and although it doesn't kill you, it is a life sentence. Parkinson's challenges everything in life that is taken for granted. There is no respite. That's the challenge in Parkinson's, and that's why the work you are doing here at Oxford Biomedica is so important. Your product, ProSavin, is very exciting. I didn't get paid to say that. I mean it really is. There are some things called growth factors, which basically have been shown to regrow the cells in the brain, to regrow the networking in the brain that's lost through Parkinson's. But the problem is how we deliver it into the body and into the brain so that it can work its wonders. And there's all sorts of research. There's research going on in Bristol, in Holland, and in the States. And we're getting there. We're getting into the realms of delivering this molecule.
Another form of treatment is a surgical procedure known as deep brain stimulation. Although apprehensive of invasive brain surgery, Barbara and Jon went to find out about it from its foremost UK practitioner.
We're passing a wire into the brain, and passing a wire in the brain has an intrinsic risk of hemorrhage or causing a stroke or death. But it's also true that no surgery I do is entirely safe. I'm a neurosurgeon. So,
well, nothing's safe anyway.
No, but it's safer than most procedures.
Right. Yes.
What are we seeing there?
Well, what we're seeing here is basically a plain X-ray of a patient's side, front, and top. And you can see that the cables are coiled onto the scalp, and the electrodes are going in to the target deep in the brain. All right, you can see, and this is from the top. And you can see the cables under the skin that we'll be hooking up to pass under the skin to go to the pacemaker.
I'm still interested in keeping my musical career going for myself.
Sure.
And so what do you find when you treat people who use their hands with what they're doing? Can they actually get back to what they were doing
yes,
before?
If you were to be admitted to our unit, we would do a scan of your brain to look at the various targets we would like to implant. And then it would be possible for us to give you a fairly accurate prediction of how well you'd be after surgery. And deep brain stimulation has allowed musicians to go back to work. In the right people, done by experienced surgeons, I think it's a marvelous procedure.
He's got a little
Now,
tremor.
this is how the operation is done, you see. This is a patient with a tremulous Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
You can see he's wide awake,
Yeah.
and he's got this frame bolted to his head. And he just had a scan to map out the subthalamic nucleus. And if you see his hand, you see it's tremulous.
Yeah.
And if you watch that hand, as we turn the current on, you'll see the tremor disappear. There, you see. Then my neurologist will examine him. And you'll see it's rock steady. There it is. It's rock steady, and you can see that the rigidity, the stiffness is completely gone.
Extraordinary.
And then we do it for the other side.
Right.
And with the everything going well, the patient is put to sleep, and the wires, the connecting cables, are run from the deep brain electrodes behind the ear under the skin to a pacemaker that we can put under the skin, either in the chest or in the abdomen.
Right.
Have you any that have had it done, say 15 years ago,
Yes,
and it's still working fine?
Well, yes, what happens is that surgery is dramatic at alleviating the symptoms that we choose to alleviate, you see. But with time, Parkinson's develops other symptoms that don't respond, like they can hypersalivate, you see. So they can develop sleep disorders. They can develop bowel problems. Some of them can become cognitively impaired, you see. Those aspects of Parkinson's disease are not stopped by deep brain stimulation or anything else.
What do you think the long-term chances of a real fix coming in the next, say, 15 years?
Parkinson's disease, being a multifaceted disease, I would find it hard to believe that one would find a cure for it. But something that slows its progression is probable.
Right. As a drug rather than a...
It could be reparative, repairing the loss of dopamine cells in the brain.
So this could be the famous stem cell syndrome?
Yes, a sort of stem cell, whatever variety is used. There are still quite a lot of problems to be sorted out with it before it becomes a clinical reality. But stem cell therapy, I believe, would be a possible therapy in about 15 years.
Has what you heard changed your mind about deep brain surgery?
It's fascinating, but I still don't like the idea for myself. It may work for some people, but for me, it's the last resort. This is a slow tango, and it's one of the darkest pieces that we play.
Great inventions of the last century.
To make his life easier, Barbara's fellow sufferer, Bill Worrell, has invented ingenious personal solutions to simple problems, like holding a phone.
Got a Velcro on your cap and Velcro on your phone. And there we have one solution.
That's just absolutely great, Bill.
Absolutely perfectly.
Or watching TV while lying down.
Lying down the floor, watching it mirror view, as it were.
At the same time, the unbearable experience of living with Parkinson's can lead to a desperate search for alternative, quasi-medical magic cures.
The last time we met, you and Barbara had just been to Spain.
Yeah.
Now, you'd been to Spain to have this little tiny titanium needles implanted in your ears by a man who charged you an awful lot of money to do this. And the chap said to Barbara when he was doing you, well, don't worry, I'll do you this afternoon. And Barbara didn't have it done.
Yes.
So I'm very interested to know what has happened in the interim.
Well, the simple answer is things have got a lot worse.
How long did it take to start feeling worse?
Well, it's been gradual, but it certainly was several months before it was quite as obvious as it has been recently. So, I mean, I've basically got about 56 in each ear.
So on the outside here, yes. Right, yes. So on the outside here, all the way down towards the lobe, you've got 56 little titanium needles in each ear implanted under the skin.
Yeah.
And you paid how much for this?
It was about $7,000. It was just literally, it was like with a clicker, you put one in, you go, pick another one up. It was a bit of a shock in the dark. I mean, it's obviously financially it was a lot of money, but the thing that attracted me to it, other than that, was it was fairly non-invasive. If nothing happens, although with a bit of dent in, is my bank balance.
You've only got to keep an eye on Michael J. Fox, because if there's a cure,
he's first in line.
Yeah, well, it's the same with Muhammad Ali, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Anyway,
When there's a fix.
If there are people with that amount of money haven't found it, then
exactly.
What chance are the likes of others?
When I play a ballad, I'm actually singing. I'm playing an instrument, but I'm singing words in my. There's a meaning to it. Night Watch is very lonely. She is by herself. I just imagine when I'm playing that she's there. She's trying to stay awake. It's late.
During this gig at Ronnie Scott's, Barbara's L-Dopa tablets were inducing movements that made it difficult for her to hold the saxophone steady in her mouth. Unless she could change to the recommended new apomorphine treatment, Barbara realized she'd no longer be able to play in public.
You're feeling totally dead?
Yeah. I don't know whether I can move anything.
And how could you possibly have played the way you played last night?
I don't know. I've got to get up now. I've got to get up. It's going to be a major thing in itself. When I'm actually not up, I sometimes strain my right hand by doing things with it which I shouldn't be doing. It's twice the size of my left one.
Do you ever see things that are not there?
Oh yeah, all the time. But it's actually it is there. But it's shapes of things that are something else. For example, when I got out of bed at 3 o'clock this morning, there was a big individual just by me in a sort of cap, very tall.
Welcome to the world of Parks.
So are they there? Are they there and we don't see them?
No, I mean, what happens with other patients, you get a whole film set outside and they call the police because they haven't asked permission to film in their garden and things like this. Yeah, you often get this sort of behaviour as Parkinson's advances on.
Yeah, Barbara thinks there's a film crew in here with us now.
There's a surprise. So we're all having hallucinations and illusions.
Mike? Mike?
Mike? Mike's not here, darling.
Can you help me up? Sitting position, please. I feel sick.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I need to be help.
I'll get you up.
I'm paralysed now, I can't move.
You...
Oh, it's pain on my side.
Come on. Come on.
What are you doing?
Come on.
Hold on there. Oh, look at me.
Sometimes she will stand at the window and tell me what's going on outside the window, and of course there's nothing going on outside the window, and we know it and we talk about it, and it's like a waking dream for Barbara. And we're assuming at the moment that there's nothing to get worried about.
No, I mean, again, these sound to me like hallucinations, and the so-called benign hallucinations, because you've got full insight about it.
Yeah, I don't worry about it.
When they become scary, when they become troublesome, when they intrude on your personality, when they make you behave in an irrational manner, that's when really we need to probably think about, because we do know that hallucinations, delusions, paranoia, etc. can all be caused by dopamine agonists.
You ready? Here we go. Oh, darling.
Oh.
What's up, huh?
Oh. Sorry, I just think I'm going to walk again.
Oh my God.
I wrote this piece and recorded it with Big Sky, the Norwich Community Choir. I think most of my music is based on either universal truths or images of everyday life. Writing choral music, you have to be careful to match the music to words. And when I chose a poet for my work journey, I had to search. And I found Tagore. He was an answer to my prayers. So I found a lot of the poems very close to the home truths of what we are and what we're about, and the fact that, we are on a journey through life, and that the destination is least where you think it is.
Months went by as arguments took place about which health authority would provide Barbara's new apomorphine treatment.
The problem started over a year ago now, when Ray Chaudhuri, the specialist, recommended she go on this drug. We're a year away now and we still haven't got it. I wrote to the MP claiming that, in fact, she wasn't getting this because they couldn't make up their mind who was going to pay for it. When somebody like Barbara, 12 years into Parkinson's, needs a serious drug that's going to be very expensive, then at the end of the day, somebody's got to be made to pay for this. And I believe the problem is about funding, and it's being hidden in this euphemistic phrase, shared care guidelines. Work is waiting for us, but work, of course, has to be fixed up 6 or 9 months ahead. And until we can get some sense of what apomorphine will do for her, we are caught like rats in a trap here, unable to work, with all the people that would normally be working with us unable to work either.
At last, in November 2009, the funding issues were resolved.
So we're a year after Ray first suggested this, and 6 months after you did the challenge.
I've never want to experience what you two have been through.
And somehow it's all come together in a week.
So you have your pump ready?
Yes.
At the moment it's set at 0.3 and your bolus is 0.3.
Right.
This is your bolus time, but we'll go through all this once I've switched you on, because it's pointless me going over this when your brain's not totally switched on.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a complete waste of time, so we're better off doing it when you're actually on, okay? Let's now run you through and you're all ready to go. This is your big moment. Right. Want to go into your tummy?
Yeah, whatever you want.
I'll show you. If you watch carefully. Done. That's it. Simple as that. Hold on to your pump. Okay, let it go for me. And that's all set now to run.
Right.
Okay, that's you up and running.
Not so bad, huh?
No. You can do that, can't you?
Yeah, sure. No problem.
So, yeah.
How do you feel?
I don't know.
It's tiny what's going in. It's bypassing your gut, so it's going straight into your system, subcutaneous, straight into the brain, and it's gently working on the receptors to switch them on.
And it's not being interfered with by food and drink.
No, it's not.
Which is what the tablets are.
Yes,
and
exactly.
that is what's bringing all this uncertainty
Yes.
into it when you take tablets.
Yes. Yes.
I'm getting taller, that's all.
Yeah, you're straightening up nicely now.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at your hand movements. Much better. Let's get in there. Your face is clearing.
Yeah.
I can see the movements
We should have
better.
brought a saxophone in, you could have given us a tune.
I feel like I need a cup of tea.
You need a cup of tea.
Yes, you can have a cup of tea.
Amazingly soon, Barbara's condition improved to the point where Jon could include her in the lineup for the forthcoming tour of his veteran rock band, Colosseum.
Right, so I'm going to go and tell him that, and then I'll be.
What about the length of the set?
It's an hour and a half. It's scheduled for an hour and a half, including encores. It's 7 o'clock till 8:30.
Did you think, Barbara, that you'd ever be touring with Colosseum again?
I didn't think so, no.
Is this the first tour you've done for a long time?
Yes.
Sid.
Yes, the last concert I did was at Ronnie Scott's, the Paraphernalia.
This is kitchen and saxophone is your job,
Jon,
if you don't mind.
Look, I can't be in two places at once. Why not? I can't get lunch and do the rehearsal.
I didn't think I'd be playing with anyone, actually, to be honest with you, let alone Colosseum. I mean, because I was really getting in a bad state, actually. I mean, it still has, it's still not straightforward, but it's a million times better than it was. feels fine, it doesn't hurt at all.
This one doesn't hurt at all. You've got a nasty bruise there from a previous thing.
Yeah.
The needle stays in from 9 in the morning until about
1 in the morning sometimes.
1 in the morning sometimes. And although that's not painful, as you wouldn't really know it was there, the trouble is that after you've taken it out, it produces these little nodules under the skin. And you can't insert into those nodules. And in the end, after 6 months, the whole of her stomach now is virtually unusable because of these nodules. And we have to actually massage them away. But this is proving very difficult. There's so many little bits to this, and when we're at home, we have it very well organised, but here, of course.
That's why you really need someone there doing it with you. You can't really do this by yourself.
I have one pack in my case, she has one pack in another. And that way, we are able always to make sure that we've got the stuff with us, you see, when we're travelling. This goes on here like this. And then we take two of these. The reason why this drug has not been more widely used is that actually it produces sickness, it produces low blood pressure, and it has to be tolerated. And the way to tolerate is you now can take drugs for the sickness and you watch the low blood pressure and slowly you ramp up the drug and you become completely inured to it in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's a miracle drug, really. When I'm on it, I just carry on normally. So, you know, you can't ask for more than that, can you? But, you know, when I've not got anything, I can hardly move.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to prime the pump. There it is, there it comes. So now I stop the pump.
This is quite a complicated learning process for you, Joe.
Well,
he saw it once and then he did it perfectly.
I'm just a techie, you know.
It's good it's this way around, not me doing it.
This is sticky now. And now we take the sheath off and there's the needle. Okay? And it's one movement, you've got one chance only. And there it is, like so, okay? The drug's now going in quite fast, much faster than it would do normally, but this is a boost. Now this is to switch her on.
Right, all I have to do now is wait for this drug to work.
Bloody jazz musicians, you know, and their bloody drugs. If the audience that you're going to play to tonight could see you like this, they'd never believe it, would they? I mean, they just never believe it. It's incredible, really. It's a miracle, this drug. Definitely a miracle.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got completely new gear for this?
Oh, absolutely. Perfect jeans, yeah.
Yeah. Look good.
This is...
This is a new purchase?
Yeah, my new top.
All right.
Yeah. Cool. It's just an excuse to dress up, really.
I play in comfortable, relatively loose trousers, and the most important thing is that the bottoms aren't wide enough to catch the pedals on the rebound. Because if they catch in the pedals, I can get sucked into the vortex of my own drum kit. Gert, who's our agent for Europe, needs a lead time. 9 months. And the big problem for me, Barbara, is making the decision that in 9 months' time, she's going to be in good enough shape to do a rigorous European tour. And I'm saying to him, we're on a roller coaster ride with this apomorphing and Barbara's Parkinson, and I just can't tell you. And this is going to be a little ticking time bomb for which there is no real answer. We've got 18 people on the road with the band, and you commit those people and their livelihoods. So you can't just say, you know, 2 months before the tour, sorry, you know, I'm not going to do it. Barbara's, you know, and this is going to be the problem. Not so much the fact that she might not be able to play on a given date, but how can I be sure 9 months ahead? That's okay.
composing, in her 90s, as many composers have done. And this means that there's no end, really, as long as we can be creative, which is what we've done all our lives. We are in a very, very lucky, fortunate situation. We've organised our lives so that we didn't have to compromise. We could make our own music, create our own public.
I get the feeling when I'm seeing you play, you forget Parkinson's, that somehow you get so caught up in the moment of playing that your body has a power which you almost can't imagine it still has.
I do forget about it. I think about the music.
Welcome to Vienna, and welcome to tomorrow.
It's 14 years, nearly 14 years now, and music has helped me really live with it as long as I have.